Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Time to Thrive podcast. Anna and I are here continuing our endurance series that we started last week. And today we are going to be studying about Jacob and Rachel, who is our biblical couple for this month. We're just going to get on into it. We'll be mostly in Genesis chapter 29. We'll be referencing that chapter today. So we definitely recommend that you go back and study it and dive deeper and definitely look into it on your own. Mm-hmm. But starting out, just like a little recap of last week's episode, we talked about endurance. Mm-hmm. And so in Greek, endurance means a patient holding out, steadfastness, or perseverance. Mm-hmm. And so last week we talked about how it's not a passive waiting, but it's active perseverance under pressure that continues in the face of difficulty. And so in Genesis 29, we meet Jacob, who falls in love with Rachel at first sight. And I was thinking it because that's what my commentary said. And I was like, you see it and you read it that way, but I think sometimes we miss the fact because everyone, I know we're girls, we'll swoon over that kind of like Hallmark movie kind of love a little bit, but he did. As soon as he saw Rachel, he fell in love with her. And so he made a deal with her father, Laban, to work for him for 7 years in order to marry her. And then, as I was thinking, I was like, imagine waiting for 7 years to then be deceived, and then you end up marrying the sister of the woman you love. Yeah. Like, we can laugh about it, but I would be so upset. Yeah, and so we see in Genesis chapter 29 that Jacob ends up working for another 7 years, a total of 14 years of endurance. And so in this story, it shows us persistence through betrayal, patience in waiting, and then we see their long-term commitment that's motivated by love.
I think the other thing, too, is that Rachel was also waiting. Like, I think we forget that, too.
Yeah, like, we talked about Jacob because he was in agony.
Yeah, I was literally reading it, I'm like, oh, that's so awful. Then I'm like, wait, what was she doing this whole time? Because she was promised to him. It was like, oh, imagine that. Like, 14 years of, I want a house, I want a child, I want this. Like, no. Oh, that would, I don't know. that would be crazy. But that's one of the things that I thought of, too, is, not only did he was like, I worked 7 years for her. So that was his.
That's already a long time.
Yeah, that was like his command. Like, why did you say 7? It's probably like a tradition thing, probably, or also, like they cultural.
We don't even know how old they were at the time either.
That is true. Oh, that would be so awful. And then he like is willingly, I worked 7 years for her, and like you said, gets deceived, and then his, now father-in-law was like, for another 7 years. So it was not for the first time. He like offered it. For the second time, he did not. He was like, he had to accept and be like, you know what, yes, I will do this. So that was, when I think of endurance, when we were studying, I'm like, this is definitely, I think both of us saw the Jacob and Rachel was like, this is a good one that goes along with it very well. Yeah.
And so looking at endurance from a marriage perspective, and even just relationships in general, today in our culture, relationships are often expected to be instant and effortless. And so when things get hard, people just walk away. And culture tells us, like, oh, well, you can just walk away, you can leave, you can get out of this. Like, you didn't put that much into it. But Jacob teaches us, and this whole story shows us, that godly love endures trials. It endures hardship. It doesn't give up. It doesn't just leave when things get hard. But it waits, and it works, and it's a sacrificial love, too.
Yeah. And when Scripture repeats itself multiple times, they always say, like, listen up. And in the Bible, like in Psalms 27:14, it talks about not giving up. In 2 Corinthians 15:7, it also talks about not giving up. In Psalms 25:21, and then all over Proverbs, it talks about developing integrity. So it's all over Scripture of taking courage in times of building trials, like we talked about in the other episode, that like struggles and trials will come your way, but that develops into your endurance, strengthening your relationship with Christ. So all over Scripture it talks about integrity, it talks about endurance, and this story definitely, or this Bible story definitely talks about or shows us in full picture of what it looks like, especially like in a marriage and a relationship. standpoint.
Yeah. It teaches us to trust God's timing and to be faithful in hard seasons, and also to lean and trust in His promises. And I think that's one thing that in marriage and relationships, like, I feel like that's like a non-negotiable. Like, there has to be endurance, or else the relationship's just not gonna last. Because, like we talked about in our last episode, like, we're going to have struggles in this life. We're going to get frustrated. There's going to be miscommunication in relationships. There's going to be stress. But having that endurance and choosing love is going to make you want to stay. You're committed to each other, like we talked about a couple months ago when we talked about commitment. And so, yeah, they all kind of tie hand in hand together.
And personal integrity, I talked a little bit about last week, is Jacob could have, 3 years in been like, you know what, never mind, like, this is too hard. Or like,
after marrying Leah, been like, I have a wife.
Exactly, exactly. And it's like, he kept his commitment. He didn't, it doesn't say that he wavered. It didn't say that he had a second thought. Scripture tells us that he was like, yes, I will do this. So he kept his promise, even probably behind closed doors when he was like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. No, he kept going on. So that personal integrity, when nobody was looking, he kept doing it, kept working, kept his word. So that shows about his character also, and Rachel's as well, because we don't hear a whole lot about her side of that when it's happening, but she had to wait as well. So, yeah.
I think that's all we have. Do you have anything else to add?
In application, I just have a short one of trust, wait, and work as you wait. We talked about in a couple episodes a while ago about as you're waiting, do what waiters do and serve. And so that has a lot of phrases do not stick in my head, but since I'm a waitress, that one has stuck in my head. So as you wait and be working and proactive. Again, proactive. Talked about that last. But being proactive and serving as you wait.
Yeah. Well, especially because we don't know what God has in store, but we can trust what He says in His Word about how His plan is perfect. Everything He wills is going to come to. So as long as we have patience and then we have endurance and don't give up, we'll see in the end that God will provide and it'll be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Alright then. Well, thank y'all for listening. Make sure to like and comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to let us know any other things that you find about this, any other points that stick out to you, definitely let us know. You can follow us on our Instagram and Facebook and all of that. And we would be excited to meet you and chat with you in the comment section. Pam would love to chat it up with you. Alright, well, we will see y'all next time. Bye.